Hey friends, it's Justin and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're playing with so many colorful new products from scrapbook.com to create a wonderful citrus inspired card. Now I do have every product used in today's tutorial linked in the description below, so if I've inspired you to go on a little shopping journey, using those links below do help support me as an artist. So thank you in advance for using them. Now let's get into some card making. For today's card, we're going to be using the Delight Pattern Paper Collection, the Stitched Triangles A2 card dies, the Nested Rickrack Arches, the Nested Stitched A2 Rectangles, Hello Sunshine Word dies, Mixed Media White Paper, and the shape dies of the Citrus Blooms to make this beautiful and colorful card come together. We're also going to be using the Premium Classic cardstock and the Premium Canvas cardstock for different elements of our card. Now let's get into a little bit of die cutting, and we're going to start with the base of our card. We're going to use the Delight Pattern Paper Collection. This is the 6x8 pad, and I'm going to pull the pattern that has the stripes on the orange background, and we are going to die cut this with the largest nested stitched A2 rectangle die. Now, of course, I could use an A2 sized paper pad from this because you know scrapbook.com is always so fantastic in offering both of their pattern papers in a 6x8 and an A2, but I like to use the 6x8 pads to help get that stitched lining on there. Now we're going to pull in the Stitched Triangles A2 card die along with some premium canvas cardstock. We are going to pull in the Fireflies premium cardstock along with the Sweetie Pie premium cardstock to use for the background of the card. Now this is called premium canvas cardstock because there's actually a little bit of texture to this paper. So what I wanted to do was pull it a little bit closer to the camera so you can really see the grain of the paper and how that extra texture is really going to add a nice detail to our card. Triangles A2 card dies, we are going to use the left and right side triangles to die cut from the Sweetie Pie paper, and then the top and bottom triangles we are going to die cut from the Fireflies paper. So I'm tacking down the dies with some mint tape, die cutting them off camera, and now I can begin the process of adhering them to our orange striped paper that we had prepared earlier in this tutorial. Now I'm trying my best just to get everything lined up nice and easy. What's nice about the Stitched Triangles A2 card die is that you get nice gaps in between each of the triangles. They're not necessarily meant to be fully pushed together. They're supposed to be very slightly spaced out. So I'm trying my best to get that spacing in there to really get the orange striped paper pattern to come through the background a little bit. Because if this covered the entire card, there wouldn't really be too much of a point to choose a colored paper for the background. I would probably just adhere it to some sort of solid piece of paper that's a scrap in my stash. Now let's pull in the Nested Rickrack Arches, and what we're going to do with this is we are going to use the second largest die with some mixed media white paper, and I'm actually going to die cut it twice from this paper. And what we're going to do is use this to create sort of a focal center for our card, and I am going to die cut the second largest die twice from the mixed media white cardstock, and then we're going to do some stacking. And what that means is I'm going to use some liquid adhesive to adhere these two die cuts directly on top of one another to create a little bit of dimension without the use of a foam tape or something of the sort. So once I have those nice and adhered, I add a little pressure with an acrylic block, and then once I'm happy how everything has connected, we are going to use some liquid adhesive on the back of the unit and adhere it directly to our prepared card panel. So I'm going to try and get it as nice and centered as I possibly can. I almost feel like this Nested Rickrack Arches die provides almost a window of sorts that our eventual fruit platter is going to be sitting in front of, and I'm just loving how this is turning out. Now let's get into a little bit of extra die cutting, and we're going to be using some Premium Classic cardstock. We're going to be using Petal Pink, Vivid Yellow. We're also going to be pulling in Orange Sherbet, Kiwi, and Pacific Coast. I actually also pull in Berry later on in this card as well. We're now going to get the different shapes from the citrus bloom shape dies all taken care of and die cut out. Now you're going to see that I'm definitely using some scraps of paper. I am a huge proponent of whenever you're using your good cardstock of saving those scraps as best as you can, especially for smaller die cuts like this. It really allows you to stretch your stash and not be wasteful with the best products that you have in your collection. So I'm laying out all of the different die cuts that are included in the citrus bloom shape dies. We've got oranges, we've got lemons, we've got little leaves, we've got some flowers, we've got flower centers, and I just think that this is all going to come together to make a beautiful combination for this card. I'm also using some scraps from the mixed media white paper for the center of the flowers, and here you can see everything all prepared together in a stack and sort tray. Now, like I said, we are also using that berry cardstock, and we are going to die cut the bowl and the stand portion from this berry cardstock. I just love this deep pink color, and I think it's going to work really well with the colors that we've already selected. Now, let's do a little bit of ink blending for all of our different elements, and we're going to start with this berry bowl. I'm going to pull in some festive berries distressing, and I am going to ink blend along the bottom of the bowl portion of the die cut. So I'm not too worried about accidentally ink blending the stand on this larger piece because we're actually going to use some liquid adhesive in a little bit to cover it up with the smaller die cut that we've cut out as well. And this just allows us to add a little bit of extra dimension to our die cuts with some ink blending to make it have a little bit more of a realistic look. So here you see I'm going in with that liquid adhesive, and then we are going to just pop that stand right on top, covering up any sort of ink blending that we may have gotten on the larger die cut, and I just love how this little piece turns out. Now, I'm also going to use the Festive Berries cardstock to color up some of the centers of the flowers. I'm using a small brush just to get that taken care of. And I love how these little flowers look. They're super easy to blend up. I think that it's just going to look so cute when it's all put together with all of these colors. So with picked raspberry distress ink, I'm going to put a little bit of glue in the center and then adhere the center of my flower. And we've got one of our flowers all taken care of. I'm also going to use some peacock feathers for our Pacific Coast flowers, and I'm going to blend from the center out, and that way the center of the flower is going to be darker than the edge of the petals. I just think this gives the flower a little bit more of a realistic look when you're popping on a center of the flower to your die cuts. So I'm going to use some mustard seed ink for the center of our blue flowers. I just love that sort of teal aqua when combined with a good yellow color, and I think the combination of peacock feathers and mustard seed definitely does that. We're going to use a little bit of liquid adhesive onto the center of each of the flowers, using it very sparingly, just enough to grasp those little center of the flowers and adhere them into place. Now we're going to use that same mustard seed distress ink to blend the bottom of our die cut lemons. So I'm going to use a 1+ shader brush. This is from Waffle Flower, and just sort of go in and blend these little die cuts just so we get a nice variation of color, that sort of ombre effect that we all know and love so much with our lemons. And we're also going to do it using carved pumpkin distress ink with the oranges as well. Now you can kind of have fun with the oranges. You don't have to go directly orange. You could even do these sort of as a grapefruit color if you wanted as well. Whatever floats your boat, go ahead and use it. Now, with the kiwi cardstock that we've cut these little leaves from, I decided to go in with some Lucky Clover distress ink to blend the edges of the leaf. Lucky Clover has become one of my favorite distress colors, particularly over the past year or so, just because I love that it's got a little bit of a blueness to it, and I find myself reaching for it so much more often than I used to. Now, using liquid adhesive, we're going to begin sort of piling up all of these elements inside of our citrus blooms bowl. And what I'm doing is the little elements that I want to appear first in the bowl, sort of like in front of other elements, I am adhering them first, and then I am stacking the other images behind it. And this is going to sort of help create the order of how I want things to appear in the bowl. So like I said, using liquid adhesive, I'm sort of stacking everything together, adhering it in the appropriate order. I'm also, when I adhere these flowers, I'm trying to put in the little leaves as well. I think that those leaves are probably the most necessary detail with this bowl because it adds a little bit more of a realness to the different elements in here, and it doesn't just make it look like the flowers are plopped on top of the different citrus elements. Now, just something I want to point out that you probably know already, especially in situations like this, less adhesive is truly better. You don't want to pile up a bunch of liquid adhesive onto these small die cuts. You really can get away with small amounts of it just to make sure that everything is adhered nicely and that you don't have any of that adhesive sort of gooping beyond the die cut and getting onto other elements of your card. Now, we're going to pull in the Hello Sunshine word dies, which has really become one of my favorite sets when working with summary cards along with citrusy cards. And we are going to use the sentiment that says, "You're so sweet." So we're going to use the outline from the Kiwi cardstock scraps. And then from my white mixed media scraps, we're going to die cut the words themselves that says, "You're so sweet." Now, with the sentiment, there is a apostrophe that comes with your. So make sure to keep an eye on it. Don't lose it just because you're going to want to make sure to get that popped into place later. So I'm trying very carefully to lay out each of the letters of the word sweet, trying to get it as lined up as possible. And then we're going to pop on the word your, and finally we're going to pop on the word so. I did add in the apostrophe off camera, but you will see now with my hand being moved, that little apostrophe is there and nicely into place. This sentiment is just so fun, and I know that it's going to work with this bowl of citrus fruit items so perfectly. And as you can see, I'm going to start mapping everything out as to where it needs to go because I want the sentiment and the bowl to sort of be one unit and get them centered. I actually decide to adhere the sentiment directly to the bowl of citrus, and what we're going to do is just consider this as one solid unit. This is going to make adhering the unit a little bit easier because I've decided to use some foam tape to get it nice and propped up. So I'm going to put some 3mm foam strips on the back of our bowl to get everything propped up, and then I'm going to remove the backing of the foam tape and pop it onto the center of our card. Now, with our citrus bowl and sentiment nicely into place, we're really entering the home stretch of the final two steps. So one of them is putting some liquid adhesive on the back of the prepared panel so we can adhere it to an A2 size card base. Now, don't forget, scrapbook.com does sell prepared A2 size card bases in their shop, and I do have them linked down below for your shopping convenience. Lastly, we are going to use some snowflake glitter pops of color to add some little pops of shimmer to our card. I'm using the 4-ounce bottle, but they also come in a smaller size bottle as well. So whatever fits your stash, of course, this is going to be a very necessary item because I love how these end up being clear glitter enamel dots of sorts that you have full control over applying. So I'm putting them onto our card, and I love the clear glitter pops of color with the snowflake. It just looks so perfect. I tap the back to sort of flatten them out, get rid of any sort of pointedness when applying them with this nozzle, and I think our card is fully completed. Oh my goodness, I just love how all of these colors work together. We're truly playing with all colors of the citrus realm, and I think that Pacific Coast paper really provides a nice pop to the bowl because it's kind of an unexpected color to include. Thank you guys so very much for stopping by my channel today. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial and picked up a couple tips and tricks as to how you can combine different papers and cardstocks to make a beautifully detailed card. Now, don't forget, if you haven't yet already, please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel for future inspiration. And also remember that I do have the shopping list of all of the products used today linked down below for your shopping convenience. I hope you all have a wonderful and crafty day, and I'm looking forward to crafting again real soon. Goodbye.